This is a sea slug, which goes under the scientific name aplysia. You may be wondering, why am I seeing a sea slug in a video like this? Well, in the 60s, neuroscientist Eric Kendall became interested in this curious animal to study the phenomenon of habituation. For this, he started poking it, again and again and again. Over time, Kendall noticed that the sea slug reacted less and less, to the point where it completely lost its defensive withdrawal reflex altogether. This experiment, which earned him the Nobel Prize, was the first to explain habituation at the molecular level, that is, how animals stop responding to repeated stimuli in order to prioritize other more salient ones. Humans have the exact same adaptive capacity, but now it has become highly dysregulated. We live in a world of constant stimulation, always scrolling, always consuming, always searching for something. But despite having access to more information, to more entertainment, to more of everything than ever before, we feel less. Why? Why do we become so bored, so apathetic, so desensitized? What happened to us? I believe we are witnessing an epidemic of numbness. This is why depression and existential dread and even the doomer stereotype have become so pervasive. But what do I mean by numbness exactly? Numbness is a manifestation of despair, the despair of a soul that has partially lost hope in the world and has thus created a protection barrier to what happens outside. Numbness is both thrilled by actively seeking ways to silence the profound needs of the soul and indirect as a reaction to the fast-paced, never-ending whirlwind of world activity. But why do we grow so numb? Well, I believe there are two reasons for this. Number one, economic prosperity, which leads to overconsumption and apathy. And number two, information overexposure and overload. Let's start with the first one. Maslow's hierarchy of needs suggests that once basic survival is ensured, we move towards higher pursuits: love, belonging, mental and spiritual fulfillment. But what happens as we approach the top? We have created a society that protects us from sickness and hunger and danger for the most part, but also from change. Stress and struggle aren't just obstacles, they're also an intrinsic part of what makes us grow as both individuals and as a species. In his brilliant book Anti-Fragile, Nassim Taleb defends that systems, which include humans, don't just withstand difficulty, they thrive on it. Yet in our modern world, we have isolated ourselves from many of life's natural challenges. It seems that after a certain point, prosperity doesn't just bring comfort. It may also start to cultivate the sensation of apathy towards what we have. Because when life is too comfortable, when most of our needs are met, in a materialistic society, what is there to strive for? What is there left to need? Unlike our ancestors, we have surpassed for the most part the struggle for physiological needs, which means that we could theoretically focus on growing mentally or spiritually. But because we were brought up with pretty much the same ideals as them, unconscious or consciously, we have no idea how to do it. So this leaves us with a very interesting paradox. We're still wired to chase material security in a world overflowing with it. We chase happiness through what we can acquire, yet most of us already have more than enough. And we're stuck on a feeling of emptiness until we obtain something new, followed by the same emptiness once we have it. Because no matter what we obtain, hedonic adaptation ensures that that satisfaction fades just as quickly as it came. That's why so many people pursue degrees they don't truly care about, where there's a rise of bullshit, meaningless jobs, as David Graeber described in his book. Why so many people wake up at 40, only to realize that they've been living a life that was never really theirs. Because of this, we simply consume more food sold on clean, white supermarket shelves without the cost of labor, resources to power houses, cars, factories, travels, lifestyles, substances and experiences, feeding the addictions and luxuries of those who need an extra kick in life, and even people, through excessive promiscuity and empty social interactions on social media platforms. For all the problems with material overconsumption, at least it's something we have some control over. We can see it, we can touch it, we can cut it back. There's a tangible limit to the amount of something one can consume. But now we've started consuming something far more dangerous, something like we've never did before. Information. Every day we voraciously consume tons of information. Scrolling on our phones for news, people, updates, blasting music on our headphones. Everywhere we go on the streets now, in the billboards, it's everywhere. Playing video games, watching TV shows, movies, porn on very accessible platforms. Now even ordering commodities such as food without ever leaving the comfort of our houses. Information has become the world's most powerful currency. Technology has democratized the access to all of this information by challenging the monopoly of thoughts once exclusively held by the powerful. However, it has also contributed to making us more powerless as we watch all the miseries in our world through the equally powerless screens of our phones. After yet another war, protest, and injustice, are we capable of being moved and feel compassion or anything at all, the same way as before? And inversely, after yet another happy, funny, perfect video which seems to be exactly what and when we wanted it, why would we bother looking for that same joy and ease in a real world? This endless well of entertainment was, in many ways, a poisoned fruit. We've all heard it before. When the product is free, you are the product. As such, companies and governments saw an opportunity in this increasingly predominant web and started exploiting its users, you, for data privileges and marketing. The result? A world of relentless media over-solicitation, with the internet as the main battleground for attention, making distraction almost inescapable. Our brains were never designed for this type of stimulation, which is why desensitization has become a way for us to survive. But for those of us living in wealthy, stable societies with unlimited access to information, this innate ability has become dysregulated. We are constantly bombarded with extremes of both positive and negative emotions, and everything in between. News cycles, viral trends, fleeting dopamine hits, tragedies. Just like the sea slug, we've been poked too many times. We feel less, and so we need more stimulation to reach the same level of satisfaction as before. Who can we blame for that? Well, in great part, the responsibility is not really ours. Everything is made to turn it into avid, desensitized consumers for companies to take advantage of. And they're getting better at it as we speak, the more we interact with these online platforms. Our data is now used to predict and influence behavior, turning human experience into a commodity which can be simply sold, not only by tech giants such as Google or Facebook, but also by political interests and factions. This is why attention has now become the ultimate measure of success. Everything is made for maximum retention. We are lured by convenience, by ease, and by instant happiness. All of that simply at one click of a finger away. So why wouldn't we take it? The fact that we're facing an attentional crisis, which is largely due to digital technologies, creates a very hard self-reinforcing loop. So prolonged screen time is going to condition us to prefer shorter, fast-paced content, which in turn is going to make it much harder to engage or even to like anything else. This is not by chance. Attention and where you choose to spend it is the most powerful thing you can have control over now more than ever. Attention that is well directed, not wasting itself on unproductive problems, entertainment, and people, is the key to creating a reality that is appreciative of life, despite the overabundance or the misery in the world. Because of this, more and more people are now choosing to delete or to restrict heavily their social media use. However, the things that helping the most in being anchored to the present and have some distance on the easy, strong emotions displayed on media and prevent distractions are practices such as meditation and mindfulness and having relationships that share my vision of the world and which are very healthy, and consuming consciously both things and information, and helping those around me, those I can actually help, and sharing my gratitude for what I actually have. All those things seem silly because they are very simple, but It's crazy how we forget that these things should be simple. The important thing to keep in mind is that change is possible. Remember a little sea slug? Well, experiments show that when not poked for a long time, its reaction to the stimulus returns. So by choosing the right environment for us, we can build our sense of wonder and awe and power back. And just like this tiny mollusk of the sea, desensitization can be reversed. Many think that only when the world is dominated by artificial intelligence or machines or whatever will we realize how far we went with technology. But I think the damage is already unfolding. For example, as societies grow technologically, you see a widening of the gap between man and the natural world. In many countries, dependence on nature seems to have been transcended, surpassed, or even forgotten, allowing us, the consumers, to be so far away from the base of the pyramid that we forget that our entire existence relies on it. We live with the guarantee that food is accessible pretty much everywhere through money, so we delegate the responsibility of producing it to farmers. The gap now is huge, which erodes our sense of belonging and wholeness. Overall, I believe this is a difficult but important stepping stone for humanity's evolution. It seems that we need to reach this highest technological peak, probably in search for ourselves, just to realize that what we're looking for is useless and may even be harmful if it is not matched by an equal spiritual and intellectual evolution. As humans, we need to belong to the real world, but we also need reasons to want to belong. And right now it seems as if there aren't that many reasons. We are misled into believing that being connected, being online, is the same thing as being present, that we have no power over the real world. But we do. Realizing our power to change instead of enduring, to feel instead of numbing, and to create instead of watching is the single most important act of rebellion in a world which has made it very difficult to find peace. Over time, opening ourselves to what we can do, to the preciousness of life, and to the power of carefully directed thoughts, transforms despair and isolation into a sense of connection to the world. Thank you.